Hello and welcome to the Wellness Connection. I'm your host, Fiona Kane. And yes, I'm back. So after 143, 142 episodes, whatever it was, I needed a break. And it was because it was 143 weeks in a row that I released a podcast. So I took a little bit of a break, had to think about things. I got some feedback from some people as well. Thank you for your feedback. I really appreciate it. And I waited to come back until I felt like I wanted to. I didn't want to force it. I just wanted to be here in front of the microphone and share with you. So I'm back. And look, I think I will just, as you know, I'm interested in different things. I think I'll just present the different things I'm interested in, and it's for you or it's not, or some episodes will be, some won't. That's fine. And maybe some episodes will be me just reviewing some different things that are in the news, health and culture and all different things. And it might be little bits of pieces of all of those things, or longer form episodes on different topics, or mixture of both. Anyway, I'm just going to roll with it and see what develops, and always happy to get your feedback about what you enjoy and what you don't. But yeah, I'm back. So yeah, and Happy New Year, because even though by the time this comes out it's late January, this is my first one of the year. So happy 2026. It's already been an interesting year for me and my family, and some health challenges and things like that. But fingers crossed, things are looking better. So yeah, it's, every year has ups and downs in it. I think, we can't just, because we say this is a good year and this is a bad year, and sometimes there are very significant events, but every year has good and bad things. So anyway, I'm going to just launch right into what I'm talking about today. So what I'm going to be talking about today is if you haven't noticed, Oprah has released a new book. Well, she didn't write it. I think the doctor that she's traveling around with wrote it, and she just wrote the forward. Look, I haven't read the book. I've just seen her talking about it and seen other people's reactions to it. So I'm just going to put in my 2 cents worth based on some statements that she's made, not based on reading the whole book, just a general gist of what she's talking about. Okay. So this is not a book review. It's just a general discussion that's come from what she's said and like what she said in the media this week, and the response to it as well. So a bit of both of those things. So that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Now, Oprah is talking about the obesity gene, and that's what's caused all of the interesting feedback this week, because I will quote to you what Oprah said. She said one particular quote was, "All these years I thought I was overeating because of me and my fault. Now I understand that if you carry the obesity gene, that is what makes you overeat. You don't overeat and become obese. Obesity causes you to overeat." And so that's got quite a big response. And look, a lot of people, this is one of those topics where I'm a little bit in the middle, but more towards sanity, but a little bit in the middle. So I'll discuss it a little bit and discuss what I mean. One of the replies to that came from RFKJ, who is I think it's the health secretary now in the US. And he said, "Dear Oprah, yes, you were overeating for years, and it wasn't some mystical obesity gene puppeteering your fork. It was your choices. Stop selling surrender as science. Our kids deserve the truth, and that real change starts with personal accountability, not excuses. Maha." Oh, yeah. So I don't know if it was from RFKJ specifically, or Maha, which is the Make America Healthy Again movement, but he's part of that. Anyway, he's the leader of that. And that's kind of the general gist of her responses were kind of just laughing at Oprah. So I'm going to discuss some of the things about what she said, some of my opinions about it, and some of them will be a bit supportive of her and many of them will not. We'll see how we go, because I'm not really supportive of Oprah at all anymore, to be really honest. I used to be a really big fan of her many years ago. I just see her now just over and over again. I think that there's no depth with her, and I think she just sprouts all sorts of stuff that isn't true. I've seen it over and over and over again now. So now I'm questioning all the things I believed when I was younger and all the things that she taught me. And I actually think that she was part of the whole movement So there's the compassion movement that went through the world over the last 20 or 30 years, led by women. And I think it had its benefits. So there's obviously great things about compassion, and certainly softening things, and not shaming people for every single thing, and not being really judgmental. And there's a lot of kind of good things that were part of that movement. But what it's turned into is a completely, no one's responsible for themselves. Everyone's a victim, and you're a victim of the world. You're a victim of your life, your situation, whatever excuse kind of culture. So I don't like that part of it. And then that's what it's turned into. So it's left a bad taste in my mouth, and really questioning everything I've been taught over the last 30 years in regards to that stuff. And yeah, so I'm not a fan of Oprah's by any means. Once upon a time I would have said I was, but absolutely not now. So I will tell you the things I think that are in support of her, and the things that I disagree with. So is there an obesity gene? I don't know about that. Are there genes, do we have genetics that will lead us more in that direction? Well, absolutely. You can even just see the shapes of different families and things where one person can overeat whatever, and that's never going to affect them. They're always going to be tall and skinny, or whatever the shape they are. Someone else, can only maintain their weight if they're absolutely very, very careful with what they eat. As soon as they eat too many carbs or too much whatever, they definitely gain weight. So there's definitely a genetic predisposition to gaining weight that some people, not say, look, of course, I think I heard Matt Walsh say this, if you put a whole bunch of, regular sized people into an experiment, and you just gave them all, I can't remember the examples, but it was like, I don't know, donuts and soft drink every day, they'd put on weight. Look, you're probably right. So I'm not disagreeing with that, there's a reality in science, and if you eat too much, you gain weight. I get that. If you sort of did an experiment where you just gave people junk and that's all they did. In saying that, though, there are people who are a lot more resistant to that. And people who in their life can have, like if they did it every day all the time, yes, they'd put on weight. But people who just can, I suppose, indulge more in those kinds of things and get away with it. So there's people who, if they do one thing a week that's, too many calories or too many carbs, that's it. It totally messes their ability to manage their weight. And there's other people that can indulge many times a week in soft drinks and cakes and all sorts of things, and they maintain their weight very, very easily. So there is a reality that we are different, and that some of us are more prone to weight gain. So it's still about also what you choose to do, but some people can, for want of a better word, get away with. And when I say get away with, I'm just talking about weight and not talking about health. That's a whole other discussion, right? So some people certainly get away with eating more rubbish and more junk, more sugary things, whatever, and they don't gain weight. And they say absolutely it's all they did. Probably they ultimately would, but even then, some people don't. They just really don't. Some people just don't, right? And other people, they just don't get away with anything at all. And there's all different people in between. So yeah, there certainly is genetics in that way. And it certainly would seem also, in my experience, seeing that these very, very young, almost babies who are born, that, Dr. Robert Lustig talks about babies who are born obese. I think there's some issues where there are genetic changes happening. So I'm not completely disregarding the idea of genetics in this. I think there's a component of genetics in this. It's still about choice and still about responsibility as well. But there is, I'm not saying it's not a thing at all. So, fair. I think there's something to be discussed around that, and more to be looked at around that. I also think that our hormones do play a really, really big role in this, and I see this a lot. And as someone who myself, I am and have struggled with weight issues my whole life, up and down. So I would love to be able to say there's an obesity gene and it's nothing to do with me and it's not my fault, blah blah blah. And it's one of those things that I see it as a mixture. I see it's partly my fault because of some choices I make around what I eat, etc. I also see it as hormonal changes absolutely do affect you. And I've got Hashimoto's disease, which is thyroid disease, and I've got, sorry, I'm just car backfiring or something in the background. Hopefully this is the sound is. And I have got just a moment, sorry. Sorry about that. I'm on a main road and near a service station, so we get all sorts of noise here. So I think it was just car noises in the background. All right, get back to what I was talking about. Um, so yeah, I've gone through menopause and have thyroid disease, and I know that, and I see this with a lot of other women, and I think that hormones absolutely do affect our ability to manage our weight. I'm not saying it's the whole story. I'm not saying it doesn't give you a responsibility at all, but I think hormones absolutely do affect things and seem to make it a whole lot harder for some people. It's this thing that makes it a whole lot easier for other people as well. So hormones do affect us. What we eat affects the hormones as well, but we do have just different hormonal profiles at different times in our life that absolutely do affect us. And so I think there's, because some people get really angry at anyone who mentions hormones. Hormones are part of that. Hormones are part of the whole science of eating and weight loss and everything. So they're part of it. What I'm saying is a contributing factor, not the whole story, but hormones are also part of things. And yes, I would like to say the answer is it's just about hormones. It's got nothing to do with me. That's not true. But it would be convenient to be able to say that. So what we also know is that some people have more kind of addictive type personalities. So there are people who are more likely to become, addicted to poker machines or going gambling, going to the casino or gambling, horse racing or whatever, or addicted to drugs, alcohol, or habituated to food. So there certainly are people who have more of a propensity for that. I think that part of that can maybe just be genetic, but part of it also might be kind of what you've gone through in your life, right? So obviously people are more at risk sometimes of those sorts of behaviors if they've had issues in their childhood, if they've had some sort of something happened to their brain when they were younger, if they've had abuse, those sorts of things. So there's lots of reasons why people might be more inclined to overeat. There's also the issue of, it's a whole other, and I've talked about this on other episodes, and I can talk about it more in the future, etc. But there's obviously there's a big component of emotional eating for people, and there's a lot of people who are managing their mental health in all sorts of ways, and addictions is one of those ways, or food habituation. They're one of the ways that people do manage manage their emotions. So that is part of it as well. And I think for the people who just say it's just about calories in, calories out, and they eat too much, well, yes, for for the most part, there's truth in that. I'm not arguing that. It is, but it's kind of one of those things. It's like when you say to people, well, don't eat too much. It's kind of like saying to an alcoholic, don't drink too much. It's not saying that they're not responsible, not saying that they shouldn't do the thing, but at the same time, it's not as easy as that. If it was as easy as that, those people wouldn't be doing it. So I do get the challenge in if you are managing mental health issues or managing stress or anxiety with food, it's not as simple as just don't. So some people need a lot more support. They need therapy or whatever they need to kind of get themselves to a place where they're able to kind of just don't. It's not as simple as just don't. Okay. So there is that kind of thing as well. Many of us, well, any woman and man really now as well, we've all been brought up in diet culture, and we've all been brought up to feel shame about what we eat and what we don't eat. And if we're overweight, it must be because the whole glutton sloth theory, which is we overeat and we're lazy, that kind of thing. And so there's a shame thing around this as well, where I think if you feel really ashamed about this stuff, it makes it worse. And it's one of those things again with that whole like compassion culture that I talked about, that we've gone so far that now we have no shame. That's not good either. But being sort of like fully in shame about your body and your choices of what you eat generally will tend towards you just more of the same behavior. It's not a helpful emotion in that way. A little bit, yes. A lot, no. So I get that that's sort of a bit more nuanced, and it doesn't mean the science or the numbers are wrong. It just means that we're human beings living a human experience, and we're more complicated than numbers. And you can sort of say, you should do this, and this is healthy, and this is a way of doing things. But we see how humans are. It's not as simple as that with human beings, especially in our modern world. That's the other thing too. It's like it's availability, and it's our modern world, and it's what it looks like. Because you know, once upon a time, there just wasn't that much food available. You couldn't overeat because most people were poor. There wasn't that much food. When you look at, I've talked about it a million times, when you look at the blue zones and the people who live long time and all that sort of stuff, or the people that were involved in Mediterranean study, most of them had 2 meals a day. They were relatively poor. They were farmers, or they lived a village kind of a life. They were very active, and overeating just wasn't an option because everything you ate was grown or made or that kind of thing. It's not as simple as buying it from the supermarket or getting Uber Eats or takeaway, drive through, or any of that. None of that was possible. So it kind of wasn't possible to overdo it. Maybe if you were like royalty back in the day or whatever, but for the average individual, there just wasn't that much food available. The only food that was available is what you grew or what you made, and it was slow going and hard to make all of those things and to grow all of those things, and so it wasn't as simple as drive-throughs and stuff. So there wasn't the ability to overeat or overdo it. There also wasn't the ability to be in any way sedentary because we had to move our bodies. We had to move our bodies. We had to do, doing the washing was a huge workout, and cooking and mortar and pestle and growing veggies and gardening and all those things. They all required energy and a lot of physical work. So life itself was physically hard, and we physically used our bodies a lot. Whereas now we can touch a button for just about everything. So we can be sedentary now, whereas it just was not possible to be sedentary or to overeat really, or barely possible. It was a rare thing. So things were different then as well. And obviously it's also the food system, the things that are in the food, and that's interestingly enough, we've seen that with Maha Make America Healthy Again, RFKJ, is they're looking at that as well, because I know certainly in the US, just things like there were ingredients and colors and things in foods in the US, but like things like, I don't know, Fruit Loops and stuff like that, which is just sugar anyway. But there were just extra things in there, extra chemicals in there that were not in the ones that they sell in Canada or that they sell in Australia or other countries, because they think Americans need it to be bright coloured and fluoro and this and that and whatever. So it's interesting seeing what Maha are doing and how they're changing the way we look at the food system, because there's a lot of stuff in the food system that doesn't need to be there, a lot of extra chemicals and things. Even just like in the US, I think one of my friends went to, it was like Disneyland or somewhere like that, and she got some chicken dish, and she was quite reactive to fructose, but she thought, which is like fruit sugar, but she thought she'd be safe because she was eating, it was chicken or fish or something like that, just protein. And she had a reaction to it, and she investigated a bit more what was in it, and they actually marinated it in like a fructose syrup. So they marinated it in sugar. That's just, who does that, right? So they've done some really weird things with their food system when they've added chemicals and sugar and additives and colors and all sorts of stuff, beyond the fact that it's ultra processed food anyway, and food that doesn't require any, you don't have to make it or prepare it or do anything. We've added a whole bunch of extra things to it that just are not required at all, just to make it convenient or to make it a fun color or whatever it is. So we've messed up the food system, and it's interesting seeing now in the US. I'll probably do another episode where I talk about this. Is they've turned the food pyramid upside down, which is, it was predicted in it was a South Park episode that I really loved at the time. I think it was about 10 or 11 years ago, where they had to turn the food pyramid upside down to save America. And I actually think it is really going to help because I think we needed to do that. So I'll probably do an episode where I just talk about that. But anyway, so it's interesting that that's happened in the last few weeks as well. So yeah, we do have a broken food system, and I think that we have availability of stuff we never had before. We have mental health issues that we never had before. Modern world, all sorts of stuff going on. I talk about mental health a lot in different episodes, so I won't go over that in detail today. So there's lots of things, and I do think that our hormones do become broken, and I think that when we diet a lot, when we spend a whole lifetime dieting, which is certainly what Oprah has done and many of us have done, I think it does mess up your system. And what starts to happen is, someone who, they might be what would be considered to be morbidly obese, and they can eat 700 or 800 calories a day, which is very low, and still can't lose weight. Or they go low carb or do keto or whatever. And in some cases, for some of those people, it doesn't work because of their hormone levels and their insulin levels and all sorts of things. So I think our system does get broken from dieting over time, and it makes it much, much more challenging to reset things and to make things work. So I don't think weight loss is completely simple and completely calories in, calories out. And there you go. It's simple. What's your problem? I also don't think that that's irrelevant. I think that there's all of these things combined together in regards to weight loss. So I don't think it's as simple. It's not simple because we're human, and it's not simple because our hormones do get messed up. It's not simple because of our food system and what's available to us. It's not system because of all the narratives that we've got in our head around food and our bodies and eating and everything. So all of that contributes. However, just saying that I've got the obesity gene, oh, all right, therefore nothing I can do about it. The only thing I can do is take GLP-1s, which I've done 2 episodes talking about them. I'm talking about things like Ozempic and Mounjaro and those sorts of things, weight loss medications. Don't think that's a good idea either, just saying that that's our only option. I would also question with Oprah, I'd question a couple of things, because she was a big shareholder in Weight Watchers for a lot of years. I know that for a fact. Does she have any financial interests in GLP-1 companies? I don't know that she does. I absolutely don't know that she does. I also don't know that she doesn't, but I'd be questioning that. Why has she become such a big cheerleader for this? Is it simply because she did it and it's worked for her, or is there more to it? I don't know. But anyway, I would question that, because it's always just worth questioning why someone's cheerleading something. Is there financial gain? There will certainly be a financial gain from selling the book. Not that she needs the money, but anyway, I don't know. But what probably my biggest concern out of all of this, like, while I acknowledge all of the things I've already discussed about how complicated, how uncomplicated, and then also how complicated weight loss can be, and managing a healthy weight, all of that can be, and how it's a bit of a minefield in this world. I also am concerned that it's kind of part of the whole. One thing I'm always concerned when we're saying, you've just got some gene, you can't do anything about it, you're a victim. But pharmaceutical companies can come to your rescue. You just take the drug. Great. Cured, no issue, right? So any story that goes along those I'm always suspicious and very wary of any story that looks like that, okay? You've got the thing, you're a victim, here's the drug, that's a cure, whatever the topic is. I'm always a bit suspicious of that. Doesn't mean there can't be truth around it, but I'll always be a bit kind of tentative about it and go, okay. So I'm a victim of something, and I just need the drug companies to save me. Like, if they were curing cancer or something, yeah, great. But yeah, anyway, so I always concerned about this sort of thing. I'm also concerned that, again, as I just said, if you just put someone in a place of being a victim, you take away their agency, you take away their hope, and sort of say that, well, you've got no hope unless you take the GLP-1s. Well, how does that work out for people who either can't access them, can't afford them, or the symptoms, they just don't tolerate them. The symptoms are so great, or they've got other health issues, whatever, that means they can't tolerate or can't take those. So you've taken away their agency. You say they need the drug, and then those people just can't use the drug. So what are you saying to those people? What are you saying to the people that do use the drug? What you're saying is you need to be on it forever. That's very convenient financially for the drug companies that people will need to take them forever. And in the US, they are talking about apparently they're talking about putting 5-year-olds on them. So there's a great deal if you can get it. Get a child on a medication for their whole life. Yes, not the first time we've seen that. So anything, any place where we talk about anything to do with diet and lifestyle and health, and we make everything about being a victim, completely take away your responsibility for yourself, your agency, your hope, and then say there's nothing you can do. You just need to take this medication and that will solve everything. Puts you in that passive kind of victim mentality. I don't like that, and I don't think that is helpful either. So I think that overall, I don't like this message. I'm not completely ignorant of the fact that hormones are related to some of these issues, and that weight loss and weight issues and weight gain, obesity, and all of those things can be complicated. In some ways simple, in some ways very complicated topic. I think, though, taking away people's agency, making them victims, and here's the drug company to the rescue, always makes me very suspicious, and I don't think that's helpful either. I've talked about it in previous episodes. Like I said, GLP-1s, can they be a useful thing for some people in their health and in their weight loss journey? Yes, there's still a lot of data, a lot of issues, and more data needs to come out, and we need to see long term what this looks like. Is it a good idea to take these medications long term? So I'm tentatively saying yes, there is some potential good with these medications. There is also a lot of issues and a lot of bad, and I don't know if the potential bad is going to ultimately outweigh the good. I don't know. We will see. But yeah. Anyway, I don't like Oprah's message. It's too simplified, and I think that it comes across to me as yeah. I don't know. I don't like it. I'm uncomfortable with it. I don't know that she's always the best person to follow. She's done every diet fad and everything along the way. So I wouldn't be following Oprah particularly for my health advice. And yeah, I think making people perpetual victims who are not responsible is not helpful to their health. I think, like all these things, there's a balance, and sometimes there's a bit of truth. Sometimes there's a bit of truth in lots of different places. There's not necessarily one right or wrong answer. There's a place that sits somewhere in the middle, and it's different for different people. But yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on this. I don't follow Oprah. I don't think she's a good person to go to for advice, and yeah, it's a complicated topic. I don't like her framing of it. I think her framing of it is really, really unhelpful and not going to help people with their health. Anyway, that's my 2 cents worth. Love to hear your thoughts about it. Love to hear what you think about what Oprah has said, or what I have said, what you agree with, what you don't. Please like, subscribe, share, all of that kind of stuff. And I will see you all again next week. Okay. Thank you. Talk to you later. And this is a podcast where I like to have real conversations about things that matter. Bye.